Chandrayaan last night, A.R. Rahman after that, 500 million cell phones. But I'll tell you this, behind all these stories, there are tough times, tough challenges. That's the part we don't see. We saw Chandrayaan landing. We didn't see all the blood, sweat, and tears and the failures behind it. We saw A.R. Rahman's success. We didn't see all the stuff he was agonizing and going through, right? Our next speaker really will address those issues head on. Imagine this, you have a child, and the child has a dreaded disease and passes away. How do you deal with that as a very successful business executive? How do you do that? I mean, you know, Niren, who's going to come up and speak, was the CEO of a company, and he's dealing with this personally. How do you do that? Where's Aditi? Where's Aditi? Aditi had to deal with that. How do people deal with this yet run their lives? It's resilience. It's overcoming these challenges. And so, you know, Niren and I have known each other for a while, and he was visiting Delhi, and I said, you have to come and talk about the other side of life, not just the success, but the anguish, the dealing with difficulties, and how do you overcome it? We all have had these challenges ourselves. You know, my father died when I was 10 years old. I had to deal with that myself. So we all have these things, but we never speak about it, and we never heal others in terms of us divulging what we go through. So without further ado, I really want Niren to come up and take the stage. Niren, please come up.
It's a real pleasure to be here. MR, thank you very much. Sanjeev and the entire Diaspora team really appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to talk to you about leadership and resilience. What does leadership mean? And as MR alluded, what does resilience mean? I really think that leadership is indeed a privilege. I think all of us in this room are leaders, and it's really, think about it, it's a privilege to lead other people. And I believe that the responsibility of leaders is to be force multipliers for good, which means that enterprise value creation is the outcome of doing the right things the right way. And by the right things, I mean that as leaders, we have the responsibility to unlock the dreams of the people who work with us. We have the responsibility to serve the communities in which we operate. We have the responsibility to protect the planet that we inhabit. The end result of all of this is sustainable enterprise value creation. That is my belief. To be able to do that, I think that leaders need to be able to build trust. And to build trust with those around us, we need consistent behaviors. We trust those who are consistent, who show up in the same consistent manner, consistency of behaviors. And if consistency of behavior is what drives trust, then the question is, what drives behavior? So let me share with you the metaphor of a tree. So have a look at this tree, and the leaves that you see are the outward manifestation of our behaviors that everybody around us can see. That's what is visible to people. However, the trunk of the tree are the thoughts that drive those behaviors. And interestingly, what drives our thoughts are the roots that nobody can see, that are our values and our core beliefs. So this is how it connects for me. Our values and our core beliefs shape our thoughts shape our behaviors create habits, our habits form character, and character then unlocks destiny. And that's how I see this whole thing connected, that if leadership is about establishing trust, the only way then to get consistent behavior that underpins a trustworthy character is to have clarity of our values and beliefs. So if that is true, the question is, where do we accumulate our values and beliefs from? And I think as all of us know, it comes from our upbringing, our parents, our childhood, our school, our universities, what we read, the company we keep, our spiritual journey, and most importantly, the experiences that we go through in life shape us. Now, very often, I think we may or may not audit our core values. So I just want to ask this room with a show of hands, how many of us are aware of our top 4 values and can articulate that straight away? So maybe about 10% of the room. The rest are perhaps quite tired and couldn't be bothered to raise their hands. What kind of stupid question is that? But I think it'll become clear why this is not a stupid question. Because of course we have values, we all know that, that's pretty obvious. However, we may not be spending time auditing our values and saying, am I carrying the right values that are shaping my thoughts and behaviors and shaping my character? And periodically, am I letting go of those disempowering values and embracing empowering values that can shape my character into what I wish it to be? So think about that. And tonight, as homework, whenever you have a glass of wine, alcohol, or non-alcoholic drink, reflect and just think about what are your core values, because if there's one thing I want you to take away, it is that your clarity of values is paramount to be able to define your thoughts, consistency of behavior, your character, which will then help unlock destiny. So here are my 4 values. First value is courage. And for me, courage means focusing on what I can control, not what's happening to me. Second value that I have is of gratitude, being grateful for what I have and not focusing on what I have lost. The third value is one of congruence, that whatever I think, feel, say, or do must be congruent at all times. I must have one face for people, to their face and behind their back. I must be congruent. And finally, resilience is my core value, that every time I get hammered and I fall down, I will get up. I'll get hammered, I'll fall down, I will get up one more time. I can't help being struck, I can't help falling down, but I can help getting up and being the very best version of who I can be. Those are my 4 values, and I think a good time to reflect on what are your 4 values, 5 values that define who you are, and you can choose empowering values. You're not born with values, it's what you accumulate, but that will define who you are. So let me share with you my most profound life experience that has shaped who I am, has been the loss of my daughter, Aisha. Aisha died in 2015 when she was just 18 years old. And she was a wise old soul in that very young body. And her story is not one of despair and sadness of a young life that passed prematurely, but her story is one of a young woman who lived her life so well. She achieved more in her 18 years than many of us achieve in a lifetime. So she's an inspirational TED Talk speaker. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's got many talks on YouTube. She is a best-selling author of a book called My Little Epiphanies on Amazon. Recently, a movie in Bollywood was inspired by her called The Sky is Pink. It's on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it, but I would recommend a watch. And then finally, we've also released a documentary that honors her and inspires other parents and children who may be going through a similar journey. The documentary is called Black Sunshine Baby, and it's also on Netflix. She achieved so much, touched so many lives, and she will touch you this afternoon as I speak of her. Her story is one of courage. Her story is one of gratitude. Her story is one of deep inherent resilience and the importance of serving others. And that's what I want to share with you, and that's what has shaped my values of courage, of gratitude, of service. So On courage, Aisha talks about in her book, My Little Epiphanies, pick the highest mountain to climb on and the dullest of the days to shine on. Meaning that when times are tough, that's when we need to step back and pick a new mountain to climb on, a new challenge to go after, and then do our very best to climb that mountain. And fulfillment lies not in achieving the peak of that mountain, but in the endeavor of pursuing your new challenge. And she did that by focusing on what she had control over, not what was happening to her, and that's what I call the real, true definition of courage. So let me share some stories about Aisha. Aisha is 13 years old. We've just discovered that she has this terminal illness called pulmonary fibrosis. She has only 5 years to live, and it's like a death sentence. And absolutely crushed me and my wife at this devastating news. And that time, Ted, India, calls me up and says, would you like to come and speak on leadership to a group of about 200-300 people? I said, no, I've just heard this incredibly difficult news. I don't think I can get up and speak. I can barely handle this emotionally. And they said, well, would Aisha like to speak? Aisha was 13 years old. I said, Aisha, she is so small and she's so shy. She can barely speak to 5 people, but I'll go and ask her. So I go to Aisha and say, Aisha, would you like to speak at TED? She said, what the hell is that? I said, well, it's a stage and you get to speak to about 200-300 people. She said, Dad, what's wrong with you? I can barely speak to 5 people. I don't want to speak to 200-300 people. Why would I want to do that? And then she said, her eyes lit up and said, is TED the same thing that Bhaiya thinks is very cool? You know how it is between brothers and sisters? I says, yes, it is. She says, then I may think about it. Will Bhaiya think it's very cool? I said, yes. She said, okay. Dad, I don't think I can, and therefore I must. 13 years old. I don't think I can, and therefore I must. So she goes away and she rehearses and practices and rehearses and practices some more. I'm going to show you a little clip from her first speech. Remember, she's only 13 years old. We told her that you have, the doctors say you have a very dire medical prognosis. She didn't quite comprehend it. I told her as a father, I will find the cure for you, wherever it is, anywhere in the world. So she hadn't quite comprehended it. So here you see her speaking at 13 in front of about 200-300 people.
So as we now know, there's always something in life to sing about, something to be grateful for. I'm grateful for my loving family, my friends, my dogs. In fact, I'm even grateful for the challenges that life has thrown at me, for which I've experienced life with a much greater intensity than I would have otherwise. And I do believe that my soul would have no rainbow if my eyes had no tears. Thank you for listening.
My soul would have no rainbow if my eyes had no tears. Remarkable wisdom from 13-year-old Aisha, who spoke and absolutely lit up the crowd, similar to this one. And people were up on their feet and giving her a standing applause. And Aisha was running off the stage, and I had to grab her and said, Aisha, where are you going? She says, I said, they're honoring you. There's a standing ovation. She said, what's that? I said, they're saying it's very good. She said, oh, I thought they were very bored and they wanted to leave. I said, no. So then she said, okay. And she said, was it that good? I said, it was absolutely unbelievable. The disease progresses. It's a very, very cruel disease. And now Aisha can no longer walk. She's on a wheelchair. And she says to her mom, she's not focused on I can't walk. She says, I can still move my hands. That's her focus. I can still breathe. My mind is still active. And she says to her mom, Mom, I love school, but I can't be there. And I can't, I get very tired. So I want to reduce the number of subjects I take. I still want to do maths. She was a bit of a nerd. I'd want to do maths. But you know what? I think I want to do painting. I said, Aditi said, why? She said, there's something magical about this whole process of dipping your paint and expressing your emotion on a blank canvas. It is so therapeutic, so I would love to do it. So off she went, a new mountain to climb on, and then endeavor to be the very best that you can be when times are tough by focusing on the fact that I can still move my hands even though I can't stand up and I can't walk. So have a look at her collection of paintings. And remember, she went from not painting anything to doing all this work in the span of a year.
First things first, I'm the realest. Drop this and let the whole world feel it. Let them feel it. And I'm still in the murder business. I can hold you down like I'm giving lessons of physics. Right. You should want a bad bitch like this. Drop it low and pick it up just like this. Yeah. You should want a bad bitch like this. Drop it low and pick it up just like this. Yeah. You should want a bad bitch like this. Drop it low and pick it up just like this. Yeah. Drop it low and pick it up just like this. Drop it low and pick it up just like this. Yeah. You should want a bad bitch like this.
What do you think? Pretty amazing, right? And as you tell, there's a common theme in what she paints. She paints dogs. So she loved her two dogs. And she paints them all the time, her pug and our lab. And of course, she paints my beautiful wife. She's here in person. You can see her, and that's her on the screen. And I went to Aisha feeling quite lost, and I said, Aisha, I'm feeling left out. I had a bit of FOMO. Where's your father in all this, Aisha? You paint your dogs, you know, you paint beagles, you paint everything, and your mom, and what about me? And she said, Dad, I only paint beautiful people. The fact that you're all laughing, I think you kind of concur. So she always had a great way, you know, especially showing her father where his true place was. The disease progressed further, and now she was actually on full-time oxygen. She could no longer breathe. Her hands were working, but her legs were not. She could not stand up, and she's getting weaker by the day. And Ted called again and said, Aisha, you were a superstar the last time. Can you come back and speak again? And she said, are you crazy? I mean, just look at me. I can, you know, I'm on oxygen. How will I speak? But then again, her eyes lit up, and I said, oh, here we go again. Pick another mountain to climb on. And she said, Dad, you know what? On one condition, if I am allowed to speak without my oxygen mask. I said, Aisha, you're on 24/7 oxygen. How can you do that? She says, that's my condition. Now, if I just ask you to just hold your breath for a second, just take a deep breath, hold it, and then try and speak. It's impossible. That's what her condition was. She could not breathe. But she said, that's my condition. I don't want to be on a wheelchair. I don't want to be with an oxygen mask, you know, climbing up on stage and everyone saying, oh, poor little girl. I don't want people to see the outward manifestation of my illness. I want people to see the real me, Aisha, who I am. I said, okay, there she goes again. She's another mountain to climb on. I said, okay, Aisha, you know, if that's what you want, fair enough. So then she went like an athlete and trained for endurance of her muscles to survive without oxygen. Walked on my treadmill slowly with her oxygen, took it off for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, finally 10 minutes, taking off her oxygen mask and speaking till she was able to do it. And then she went and spoke, and I will show you this video. You will see that she's sitting down because she no longer stands. She doesn't have the energy to stand. And you can see she's getting breathless, her nostrils are flaring. But her spirit is strong. And her mind is immaculate. So listen to this next speech.
So happiness is an attitude. Happiness is doing what you truly love. And I feel that happiness can only come from acceptance. I accept who I am. And I accept where I'm at. And I accept the challenges that I'm battling with today. And I'm even more determined to make the most of this wonderful gift of life that God has given me. As Anderson once said, enjoy life. There's plenty of time to be dead.
Anderson once said, enjoy life, everybody. Enjoy life. There's plenty of time to be dead. Right? The time that we have is right now, such a gift. And she had such innate wisdom. The disease got worse, and now she could not even sit. She was lying in bed, and we knew that the end was near. She's lying in bed, 24/7 oxygen. She's, becoming thinner and thinner, unable to eat and really thrive. And she's getting very bored. She tells Aditi, Mom, what am I supposed to do? I'm so bored. We watched Friends, we watched Breaking Bad, we watched everything there is to watch on Netflix. I'm super bored and all my friends are away. What am I supposed to do? Just hang around here, just lie down here? So Aditi said, why don't you read a book? She said, like what? She said, read Hugh Prather's Notes to Myself. Has anybody read that book? Oh, you have? That's amazing. What an erudite audience. I was going to suggest to the rest of you, don't read it. That's what Aisha would say. But it's a very uniquely written book and was very successful. Aisha reads it, chucks it, and says, I can do better than this. I said, oh, man, this is like, she goes off again. There's another new mountain. I said, what do you mean, Aisha? She says, Dad, I can write better than this. I have better thoughts than this. I said, what do you mean? She said, I have lots of insights and epiphanies, and I think I can write better. I said, okay, thinking, let's see what she does. And away she went, a new mountain to climb on. Focus on what I can do. My fingers still work. My legs don't. My lungs don't. My back doesn't, but my fingers do. I can still read and my mind is active. And she takes her iPhone and she's typing away. Before I know it, she has 5,000 words. And a book is released. It's called My Little Epiphanies in the last 3 months of her life. A collection of all her musings and thinking of life in all its incredible glory, from heartbreak to love, from hope to despondency, and everything in between. And I'll share with you an interview that was taken just a few days before she passed away, where she talked about what this book meant to her.
And what is the message you want to tell the world?
I think basically everyone's just fighting their own battles together, and we're all on a roller coaster ride. And mine's been going particularly down this year, and I've felt so stuck, and so writing this book has really uplifted me, and so I wanted my readers to find peace on whatever roller coaster ride they may be on. So I hope that's what will happen.
Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you.
So if you haven't read this book called My Little Epiphanies, I would recommend to read. I think it's very, very powerful. Many people keep it by their bedside table, and you can just open it up and it'll give you some inspiration, some hope, some perspective. So that was courage, which is focus on what we have control over, not what's happening to us. We can't help what's happening to us, but we can really help how we react to what's happening to us. The second thing that she talks about is the importance of gratitude. And she wrote this. Think of her that she's lying in bed knowing that the end is near. She can barely move, she can barely walk, she can barely breathe, and she writes in her book, I'm blessed to have my ears so I can listen to the sound of my mother's laughter. I'm blessed to have my lips so I can speak to those I love. I'm blessed to have my hands so I can paint whenever I please. I'm blessed to have my legs so I can still walk on this earth. I must remember that I am blessed. What I would like you to do is, just for a moment, indulge me, take a deep breath and close your eyes. And close your eyes and just remember in this moment right here, right now, to have a deep feeling of gratitude for all that is going right in our lives. There's so much that is going right, so much to be grateful for all the people that we love, the people in our lives, the things that are going well, and to remind ourselves to hug the ones that we love just a little bit more, to embrace them and to tell them that you love them more often than you may have done so far, because the time is now. Open your eyes, please. And I think gratitude is, when we look at life through the mirror of gratitude, every day we can see miracles around us. It's magical. And I think we just forget that because we're wired to look at perhaps what is not working, but I think focusing on what is gives a huge amount of energy for us to keep moving forward. So a sense of gratitude. And then she talks about the importance of service, that if you can't change your own life, there is always someone else's, and there's so much wisdom in that, that for all those people who are dealing with some kind of difficulty, and I would argue that there's nobody in this room who doesn't have something that they're dealing with, this is the way forward. I think we can heal ourselves by pouring ourselves into serving other people. That's where true healing lies. And that's, I think, the importance of giving. So I shared with you, leadership is about consistency, and behaviors are anchored by clarity of values. Values come from our experiences. My profound experience of loss of my daughter has shaped me. I've embraced it, I've accepted it, and allowed it to shape me into who I am as a human, as a person, as a leader, and how I show up every single day in my effort to be the very best version of who I can be. I want to now talk to you, we've spoken about leadership, I want to talk to you about resilience. So how do you sort of get up every time you get knocked down? How did I find the strength to keep moving? And I want to share that with you. Well, to me, the real epiphany was when I was lost, having lost two daughters, by the way. I lost Tanya, who was 8 months old, much earlier. So Aditi and I have, borne a lot of suffering together. And I think, how do you really, as a parent, recover from something like that? We have, fortunately, a wonderful and a healthy son, Ishan, who lives in New York. He's a fantastic musician, incredible child. But the loss, I think we all carry. It's like like pebbles in a shoe. They just move around, but they're always there. Always there. I still feel it all the time. And this is the epiphany that I had, that the only way I could move forward was to first learn to love myself again. I think that the path towards others is inside out, which is you have to first learn to forgive yourself and learn to love yourself again, because only when you do that will you be in a position to serve others. So that was my first realization. And the second is, I shared with you how leadership is a privilege. All of us have that privilege. The second thing is that, can we convert our pain into purpose in the enterprise that we steward? We don't have control in the world around us, but we have control over each individual enterprise and our circle of friends, our communities that we steward. Can we actually convert our pain into some meaningful purpose in that endeavor? And it is by doing these two things that I have been able to find the energy and strength to move forward. So I'll share with you what loving myself means. So loving myself meant indulge myself in all the silly dreams that I may have, which many of us may want to postpone and say, one day when I'm retired, when I'm rich, when I'm this or when I'm that, I will do this. I will learn to play the guitar. I will sing. I will, it's all in the future. And my ask is, do it now. Take the time now, because the only moment that exists in our life is the present moment. So you laugh at this, but these were my three silly ideas. One, as a classic Indian, I always wanted to go to Harvard. I'm sure many of you have had that dream. I could never afford to go there, so I said, okay, now that I have the time, so I went to Harvard. I went there for 3 months, found it very healing. Secondly, I said, I'm a musician. I play the guitar, I sing songs, I write music, and I said, I'm going to actually put my music out on Spotify and iTunes, even though nobody may listen to it except for my wife. And I'm hoping by speaking to all of you, you will go after this and look me up on Spotify, and you multiply my listeners list dramatically. So I've got some songs. I hired a studio and recorded some songs. And third, I love teaching. You know, I love surrounding myself with young minds, because young minds are not cynical. Young minds still believe there can be a better world. And I love to be with young minds and help expand their definition of leadership can be. So I did all of this, and through that, I nurtured myself, and then I was able to step forward. And then I have leveraged the incredible privilege that I have of leading this enterprise. I run about 4,000 stores, 130,000 people across 11 countries in the US. I'm the chairman of the company now. And we have defined our purpose to make the world healthier and happier. Not make money, not enterprise value. Enterprise value is the end result of making the world healthier and happier through our impact agenda, by building an inclusive culture where everyone belongs, by serving our communities, by protecting our planet, by making an endeavor collectively to leave the world much better than we found it. I think it's a very important responsibility that each one of us carry. And finally, I want to close with this quote from Aisha's book, where she says that, you know, we all have one life. Well, many of us believe in multiple lives, but we only remember one life at a time. So let's make it gigantic. Let's make it impactful. Let's aim for something great. Let's aim for the moon. Let's stretch ourselves and make this life really count. Let's not just be ordinary, let's be extraordinary. But then remember that as we are striving for that greatness, there'll be some darkness, tough times, and as we walk together, in those tough times, still remember to have that sense of gratitude, to catch the glittering stars along the way, because there are always glittering stars, no matter how dark our path might look. Thank you very much.
I got to give you a hug, Niren. And I want to give a shout out to Aditi as well. If you don't mind, please stand up, please. So we can't let Niren go because there's so much wisdom here. Couple of questions. Anyone want to ask any hard question? I mean, he can't have any hard questions. You've answered everything, right? So any questions for Niren or
either for me or for Aditi?
Yeah, please. Aditi, you come up here too, please. I want you to, please. You have to. You are a partner, equal partner with.
She's more than an equal partner.
More than equal. Please come on up. Question, LPV? Yeah. Microphone, please. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story. It's moving, touching. Unfortunately, I know a lot of families who've been through this, and for the survivors, there is a guilt that goes with it. So I was curious, what advice would you have on how people should behave, and what is the protocol? Right? What is the right way to be supportive, yet at the same time give the space and have the ability to be a journeyman, right? Without being intrusive. What's that balance? And because there is no answer that one has been through, so curious to see how you're a supporting network, and how would one. What advice would you give to others who are going through this?
You know, answer. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's a very good question, because I think people around you don't quite know how to react, because they can't say, I know how you feel, because nobody really knows how you feel. And then they feel awkward, and then they sometimes stay away, and you start losing, your people, because they're afraid to really come close. I would say that as grieving parents, we need our friends. We don't want our friends to withdraw, and we don't want our friends to walk on eggshells, and we just want for them to be who they are, and just be there for us, physically and emotionally. Just the physical presence. You don't have to say anything. There's nothing that can be said. But just knowing that you have people who care for you, and the best way to show that is by showing up and being with you, I think is very, very healing and very supportive.
I just wanted to add to that. I think silence is what the other person needs. And you need to meet them where they are. I can be very happy one day, I can be totally destroyed the other. And I think, like Niren said, inclusion is really important, So I love texts when people will say, I'm having a dinner tonight. I thought of you, not sure if you can come. That's it. It's just like you're just saying your thoughts. And then it's up to me to say, I'm coming or I'm not coming, or ignore it or not ignore it, So it's just about where the other person is. They could be anywhere, really. And I think the thing is not to say, she's already been born again, don't worry about her. All of that you don't know how the other person, where they are in their grief process, So I think silence is just beautiful. Just your presence is so healing.
I think another one that doesn't work is, enough time has passed, get a handle on yourself.
Get a handle on yourself. Get over it.
No.
I can't believe you're still crying.
That doesn't work.
It's when it's a child, it's such a part of you, even when it's a partner. There's a lovely book written by C.S. Lewis called A Grief Observed. I love giving that to people who've lost somebody, Like a friend of mine sent me a book after Aisha died, that a lady had written after she lost her husband. I was like, that was not helpful, I don't want to think about him going. Right now, I'm just grieving about her, So be really careful what you send them, I love giving Aisha's book because it has so many thoughts about life and death. And it has such a plethora of thoughts that a person can take from it only what they want, Notes to myself. It's just a beautiful, intense book. I think just one line of, you're in my thoughts, because that's what happens to us, right? When somebody we know loses somebody they loved, they're always on our mind. And I just love having that from friends, when they say, I'm thinking of you. So
Question
beautiful.
here.
Thank you for sharing. I think it was very touching. I was going to ask you, how did you heal yourself? But now, because you have answered the question, I would like to ask you something. There are many schools of reading, teaching, listening, everything. Can we think of opening a school, how to handle grief? And I will be there to help you out.
It's one of my dreams. That's what I've been telling him we need to do now.
Yeah.
Is because, it shows that therapy doesn't really work. I'm a mental health therapist. And research shows that in the first year and a half, the pain is so raw that therapy doesn't really work. Yeah. I healed by just reading about other people's grief. I wanted to connect. It was somehow healing for me to know that other people had grieved and how they had handled it. So I love to read. I love to see movies that talk about pain. I think for him it was different. He just got so busy. He didn't have time to think. I did nothing, and I just sobbed. I think I have sobbed buckets of tears. Yeah. And I allow myself to be up one day and down another. Like Aisha has a lovely line in her book. It says, being depressed just means I'm under repair. Yeah. So for me, I tell my clients that, you're just repairing, it's fine, So allowing the permission to be not okay. Yeah. I think that helps you become okay someday.
Yeah, because my dad, when he passed away, I was traveling all across. I used to take the sessions, go in the hotel and cry. And I was not okay crying. But now I realize that it's okay to
It is,
repair
and
yourself.
I always think, tears fall on the heart and they heal the heart.
Yeah, I think so.
There's a reason they fall there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was so very personal. Thank you.
Yeah.
One more, Ashok, and Salil, and then we'll have to stop.
You are a really blessed family. Some of the thoughts that you shared from Aisha, they have the wisdom of a 100-year-old sage. Were you a spiritual family all along, or did this episode and, of course, the passing of the first daughter, did that inform your spirituality or progress it? Were you always a spiritual family?
What a beautiful question. I grew up in a Hindu family, as did he. I had a very deep personal experience when Tanya was in hospital. Very few people have asked this question, and I came to Christ. I just feel like he appeared, I saw him, I had dreams about him, and it was a whole experience when Tanya was not well, over 10 days. And it was surreal what happened. So both my girls are actually buried very close to this hotel. They're right across the road at the burial ground, the Christian burial ground. And so I'm a born-again Christian, but I believe that faith, you have to come to it. I don't believe that I should be Muslim because I was born in a Muslim family, or Christian because I was born in I really believe you have to find what speaks to you in your heart. So I'm very, very spiritual. It's my faith that holds me, but I don't attend church. I read, I attend Bible class. I don't know what Niren wants to say, but Aisha, I never tried to, I only talked to her about what I believed. And so we buried Aisha, but if you ask me what was Aisha's faith, I always left it blank. I felt when she grows up, she must. So my son used to be atheist, now he's agnostic. So we're a family who really believe in letting each other all be who we are. Yeah.
Well, I would say that I'm very supportive of Aditi's journey, and anything that helps heal you, I think is great. I think for me, I have had cycles of anger, of disappointment, of questioning, and not understanding. And I would say I'm still seeking. I'm still a seeker. I'm on the journey. And I'm still looking for answers.
Salil, last question, please. Yeah.
Hi. I was thinking yesterday when A.R. Rahman came, that was the highlight for me for this session, at this conference. I think I would have missed out something really big if I was not here today. I was going to my third year in IIT when my dad was going through cancer, and then he passed away. And it was a pretty moving moment for me. And I wrote a few lines that I would like to read to you.
Yeah.
Please.
I call it transformation. So I'm actually very moved today, so I may not be able to remember everything, but I'll try. There'll be moments in your life when you feel dejected. Dejected from the whips of time, dejected because your words don't rhyme. Dejected from the deeds of your friends, dejected from the changing trends. Dejected from monotony of life, dejected from your own wife. Dejected because a girlfriend ditched, dejected from others getting rich. Dejected from a fastidious boss, dejected from dealing with draws. Dejected from losing your dad, dejected from a news real sad. These are a few, you may have more. Cause for dejections, your life has no doors. But there is one thing you must remember. These ups and downs often live together. Today you pale, tomorrow you'll blossom. Today you sad, tomorrow you'll be glad. Your dejections will be overthrown by jubilations. These broken steps will form a stairway to glory, which will climb and write a new story. A story bringing applaud and appreciation. You may want to call it a transformation.
Wow.
Can I give you guys a hug?
Of course. Of course. Thank you. That was beautiful.
We can't end on a better note than this positive close. One last question. Are any of the paintings for sale?
We may sell them someday to raise
Okay.
money for a really good cause.
Okay, someday they might sell the paintings for a good cause.
We are taking down names.
Please,
Before I die, I want to sell a few.
please, absolutely.
take up that offer.
Yeah, Indiaspora can help you. If there's ever going to be an auction or anything like that, we will help
Thank you.
conduct.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Ma'am.
Niren.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
Thank you. Sanjeev, you want to talk about the logistics have all changed because we went over time. So explain the logistics.